on the House Walker Files on the Global Enlightenment Radio Network with your very well known psychic, Psychic Garcia, with co-hosting Krista Fisher in the house. And we have a very special guest, Mike. So how you doing, Mike? Welcome to the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
I know. You know what? I think I tried to get the other days. I got you mixed up from Monday's show because we do, like I said, we do Mondays and Fridays. But I guess Fridays works better for you. So can you give the people about a bio just in case if they don't know who you are?
Yeah, sure. So Mike Ricksecker, author and ghost historian. I have several books to my credit now, 11. The latest is right here, A Walk in the Shadows, which is a complete guide to shadow people. But I've been involved some way, shape, or form in the paranormal community for about 30 years now. And I've been on a few of the different shows, like most recently here, the Alaska Triangle. I've been on The Haunted. I was on Mysteries of Mankind, which aired in Russia. So I've done a lot of that. I run Haunted Road Media, which is a book publishing and video production company. So we have several other books and authors that I publish through Haunted Road Media. And then we have the YouTube channel as well, which has almost 800 videos on there right now. I'm the co-host of the Edge of the Rabbit Hole show on Tuesday nights, as well as Beyond the Shadows, which airs directly after Edge of the Rabbit Hole. So that's kind of a quick rundown.
Wow. So knowing that you've done all that, have you ever done like investigations on any of the shows? And were you ever like scratched, or what was your experience with anything paranormal or anything phenomenal?
Yeah, I mean, I am a paranormal investigator. So the filming for The Haunted with Animal Planet, that was a really interesting case. It was in Edmond, Oklahoma, about 10 years ago now. Is when we started investigating that house, and we investigated there several times. The show makes it look like that we were out there one time and deemed that it was severe enough that we need to call in demonologist Carl Johnson, which we did. We brought him into the case, but we investigated there like at least a half dozen times. Things were escalating. The family was getting concerned, and it was interesting because they had actually been experiencing things there for 20 years, and nobody in the household was talking about. So something would happen to one person, another person there. They didn't ever talk about it until one day they sat down at dinner, and then it all kind of came out. And it was kind of like once they kind of all confronted each other with the truth of what was going on in the house, that's when things really started escalating, and they brought us in. And so after several investigations, doing a lot of research, trying to determine what was really going on there, who or what was really causing all the activity, and Animal Planet was kind of in the mix, probably from the middle of those investigations. The team that I was with had previously worked with the production company. And so they thought that was going to be an interesting case to cover, and the family was on board with that. And that that cleansing night that we did, that we filmed for that show, that got fairly severe on that. So nothing happened to me personally, but the girl in question, she was the adult daughter. She got punched in the gut. When basically what happened was the family was supposed to wait outside while we were doing some things in the house. She came in to use the restroom, and when we came across her, she was actually like yelling at something unseen against the wall. Things like, why are you here? Why do you keep terrorizing the family? Stuff like that. And so Carl Johnson did a blessing over her, and when he did that, she doubled over in pain, like she got punched in the gut and fell to the floor. We got her back up. She was okay. But when I went over my audio recorder, because I had my audio recorder ready, when I went over the audio evidence later, I got an EVP there that said die. So there was something that was seriously trying to harm her that night. We ended up pushing that entity out, but we had all kinds of crazy things going on that night, from doors, blowing open. We'd close them, they'd blow open again. The wind outside, kicked up when we finally pushed it out. and the cats were running around in circles like crazy. It's just all kinds of nutty stuff that was going on that night. But yeah, to answer your question, it was that was really her for when we did that filming.
Wow. What's funny? With me being the psychic medium, I've always wanted to do like Animal Planet, which, sooner or later somebody's going to say something about me because I do a lot of readings on other shows too. But I'm the host of the show, but I can also do readings too. But that's something that I like to work with animals. So that's something that I would like to do too, because I'm more of the paranormal too. Also do missing persons cases. So I use my gifts in every different aspect too. So that's good that you have had some, on Animal Planet. I used to watch that show, The Haunted. I haven't seen that show in a long time. I don't know. I think they messed up by taking it off the air.
Yeah, there was just a couple seasons of it, but I really enjoyed it. Not just for the fact that we were on it, but a lot of cases that they did on it, and the way that they presented it was really well done.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Is there anything else that what else? Can you share anything that like upcoming or any shows that you might be coming on, or you can't really say anything?
Yeah, it's hard right now because everything's up in the air with COVID. So I keep getting asked if there's going to be a second season of the Alaska Triangle, and right now, I mean, I really have no idea. It's I haven't heard anything yet from the production team, from the producers of the show, Wild Dream Entertainment, or Wild Dream Films. They're in the UK, so every country has their rules that they're trying to follow for this right now. So I don't know if there are talks with because it was on the Travel Channel. I don't know if there are talks right now for that, but the show was really well received. Travel Channel keeps showing reruns of the program, so we'll see. Maybe there'll be something there.
Yeah, and that speaks something too. And this is my first time even talking to you. You've been on my Facebook for a long time, and remember how when I told you off the air that I did pick up something, but I'm not going to say that unless if you give me permission. I could say that.
Go ahead. That's fine. It's fine.
Okay. Well, some people don't know this, but Mike is an author, like he said. He's a paranormal investigator. He's been on the Travel Channel, like he said, if y'all were listening to the beginning of the show. And for everyone that, me, I read people, it's just a habit. He is also sensitive, but he says he doesn't brag because he doesn't bring that out, I guess, to the media or even on TV for that matter. Now that I mentioned that, have you ever used your gifts, or have you were ever asked to tap into something?
Yeah, it's one of those. I mean, and you're right. I mean, I have more going on than I give myself credit for, and it's because I've seen a lot of people in the field that they like me, have some sensitivities. They have some things going on, but they try to make themselves to be something like way out here and more than they are. And I don't ever want to come off like that. I want to try to be. I want to be as true and as honest as possible. And I guess I've just seen too many others lead people on, and I don't ever want to do that. So yeah, I can walk into a room and I'll get that buzz and that feeling like, hey, something's going on here, and every once in a while it'll come out like a little bit more. So just for an example, before I moved from Oklahoma, one of the, I think it was the very last investigation that I did there, it was a residence that we were investigating, and we're all kind of sitting in a circle around the room and just kind of tuning into what's going on. You have some devices set up and things like that. And the one woman who lived there was talking about one of the former owners who had previously lived there, and that she had been abused. And I was sitting right in front of the closet. My back was to it, and all of a sudden I started getting like this tingling up my back, and it was like, yeah, I think she was in this closet back here. I was just getting that feeling, that idea that she was in the closet, and that she would be locked in there, and and that she was abused within the closet. So that's just kind of an example. It does not happen with me very often. Maybe down the road I'll try to work with that a little bit more, but it's not something I really brag about.
No, but it's okay. I mean, I just said, and I did pick that up from you, but I know there's people that they do investigators and they keep that, if they have gifts, they keep that quiet, I guess, because they're more into the paranormal field, so that's understandable. Who within the paranormal, who have you worked with that you can tell us? I mean, besides the Travel Channel, I mean, who did you have worked with?
I mean, there's a lot of people that I've worked with over the years. My co-hostess on Edge of the Rabbit Hole, Vanessa Hogel, we'll have her every once in a while, remote view into a location that we're investigating. I mentioned Carl Johnson earlier, so he and I keep in contact. He had a lot of input into the Shadow Person book. So he and his brother Keith are absolutely fantastic. Just trying to think of some of the recent investigations. So, I mean, I got a lot of friends out east that, my friend Megan Talbert, we did like a series of investigations out there, like Hinsdale House, Wildwood Sanitarium. We did last fall. My buddy Sean Gilmore out here. Now that I'm back in Ohio, I'm hoping to get together with Sean some more and do some investigations out here in Ohio again. So, I mean, geez. I mean,
there's so many of them. Like, what I was going to ask you now that I got you on? What is the biggest Paracon before the COVID? What was the biggest Paracon that you can recommend that I should check out? Because some people have said you need to go to Paracon. What is the biggest to you?
Yeah, the biggest one that that was going to be a part of this year was Michigan Paracon up in Sault Ste. Marie. They just announced here within the past couple of days that they are postponing that one till next year. But there are some really good ones throughout the year. So that's one. The Phenomenology out in Pennsylvania, that was supposed to be in Lancaster, Pennsylvania this year. Parapsychon, which is at the Ohio State Reformatory. That's also a pretty good sized one. That's really good out here in Ohio. We have ours, the Haunted Road Media Paracon, that we were supposed to have that in June. I postponed it till September. We had to postpone it again because it's just everything is up in the air with the state, because that was in Illinois, and it's not really sure what's going on there. So there's also the Paranormal and Psychic Expos in Iowa that Kilmer Carvel puts on. And those are really good too. So there's a lot of great ones. I could sit here and name off, like the Arkansas Paranormal Expo in Little Rock. There's the Chicago Ghost Con in obviously Chicago, SilCon in Mattoon, Illinois in September. There's so many good ones.
Yeah, see, that's messed up too. And I was thinking that, that I brought this up is knowing that you're in the paranormal field and there's other people that go to Paracons. I mean, with this COVID,
a peek in at a couple of locations there, like with the Conjuring House and Slater's Mill. So I'm not going to be able to, take a look at those this year. I've also been in the middle of a move right now, so that's kind of thrown a few kinks in there. But looking to, I think it's kind of opened up a little bit more, and looking to get back out there a little bit to see what's readily available and open. Because for a while there, even just doing investigations, locations had basically closed their doors because everybody was talking social distancing. So there's some venues now that have started to open back up a little bit, but it's put a curve on that.
And that's sad too, because y'all have so much to deal with, and I feel sorry for anyone that has any cases, because if they do, some teams will go out and go into residence, but like that social distancing is just the problem. But and by the way, I was going to tell you, do you mind if we take any callers if they want to say hi to you? Or
Absolutely, that's fine.
Well, as a matter of fact, we do got a caller on the queue, but I don't know if they're just there to listen or to I guess just tell you something. I know I just looked at it on the screen. We have a 203 area code.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi, Chris, Stacy. Hi, Mike. Stacy, how are
Hi.
you? Hi, Christopher.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
So
Yeah,
what is
so
it?
I have a question for Mike. I remember him doing an episode regarding about a favorite subject of mine and Chris, that we had done several readings, and this particular person showed up
Oh my
in a
gosh.
bunch of readings. The Shadow Man. When me and Chris did a reading, we had encountered the Shadow Man with the cowboy hat or a hat. Sometimes he had a long jacket. He came in different forms.
Okay.
So I just wanted to know anything. Have you ever come across him, or any other information you go about him to us?
Well, that's a great question, Stacey. I'd have to know a little bit more. It's really what my entire book is about there. Yes, I've had several encounters with shadow people. With the Hat Man specifically, and there are a lot of variations of the Hat Man. So some people report like the cowboy hat or a fedora, maybe a wide brimmed hat. I've heard one encounter with a Hat Man with like an archer style hat, like something out of Robin Hood. So there's a lot of theories as to who he may be. If you're talking specifically the Hat Man, he's generally regarded as one of the more nefarious kinds of shadows. Usually an energy vampire, so somebody that comes in the room, strikes fear into you, and then feeds off of that fear. That's not true of all shadow people. That's really, one of the traits of the Hat Man, like just a regular humanoid figure. That's kind of one of the more common types of shadow people. Sometimes they just kind of, stand there in the corner of your room and stare at you, which is creepy, but not necessarily nefarious. I've seen a lot of the different like shadow wisps, and I've missed the case Edmond, Oklahoma, that we were talking about a little while ago. That I saw a giant shadow mist in one of the one bedroom during one of our investigations. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff I've seen over the years, and it really kind of depends on which type of shadow entity you might be talking about. But the Hat Man, usually more nefarious and a type of energy vampire.
Yes, and that's what we kept on running into. We would see him, like if we were giving a reading to somebody, we would see him in the distance when we would give readings for the people, or when they were talking to us about, like, say, growing up, they would have seen him. So we would have, different people telling us different things, and they described the same figure every time.
Okay, so each of these people were all talking about the exact same Hat Man?
Yes.
Pretty much, yes.
Interesting.
Yes. And the thing that we came up with is that, Mike, that since the Kova and all the activity, everybody's closed in, everything's so negative. Like, it's like, I don't know if you could feel it, but I've told other people and they can feel it too. Like, I've talked to people last night and other people that when you walk out, you could feel the difference in the air. There's something in the air. There's something out there. You can tell that there's so much negativity with the protesting and, of course, all the other stuff. But you can just tell that this is the energy for anything like that's lower level or entities. And I've noticed that he's been coming across a lot more than usual. I guess because we call him the soul collector. You can call him many different things. And like Stacey said, we came across him, and the only thing is that I was wondering, what she asked you is that, with that book that you said, then you've came across him too. So, what advice can you give to people that come across him to maybe like push him at bay, or is there anything that you can tell them for protection, or anything that you can tell us?
Yeah, well, just for clarification, I've come across a lot of different shadow entities. The Hat Man is actually like the one that I haven't come across yet, which is kind of interesting. It's like almost every other type of shadow entity I have, but not specifically him. And yeah, with the energy just off right now worldwide, I can certainly see that something that we consider an energy vampire, would be visiting people more often. There is more fear around the world right now with between COVID and all the different social issues that we have going on right now. That type of fear is really amped up. So, I mean, you can do different things to try to protect your room or set up some wards. What I usually tell people is that, whatever your particular faith is, if you wholeheartedly believe in something that is going to protect you, it will. So, if it's crystals, if that's your thing, great. If it's a specific religion, some totems or amulets or what have you, awesome. But you have to have that faith that this is truly going to ward off whatever this entity is, and your positive energy into that will manifest that positive energy within your surroundings to help ward that off.
Very good. Very well said. Anything else, Stacey, that you want to ask him? We have him on the show.
I guess pretty much that's it. I mean, I know him. I'm friends with him on Facebook. I watch his shows. I love his shows. I always,
thank you, Stacey.
Share it out. You're welcome. I guess pretty much that's it. I don't want to hold up. If there's anybody else who wants to come on and ask questions.
Yeah, and what's the thing too, Stacey? I was telling him about the sensitive part of him. Like, I did pick that up, and he's like, I don't bring that up, but it doesn't come on like command like us. It's everybody has a gift where it shines when it's supposed to. Otherwise, I would have asked you. I would have asked you like to read me, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to put pressure to you because sometimes I like to see what people see of me or what they feel or just the first instinct. But I mean, that's totally up to you. I mean, this is the first time I've interacted with you, but I'm not going to put you in that spot unless if you want to just.
I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to try to attempt to read somebody because it's not what I do. So.
But I know. He is good. He does pick up on things, especially when he does his when he does his investigations. I know he senses stuff, so I know he does. Yeah. And he knows he does too.
I know. I just like, and Stacey, because you've seen my shows plenty of times, and when I have like briefly mentioned that, I will say that I don't like to say I am anything, but yeah, I got a little something going on. So
yes, you do. You don't like putting it out there, but I know you do, because I know you're a type of person who could walk in the room and you could feel the atmosphere of the room, and yes, so I definitely know.
Yeah, and I'm glad that that I had we have you on the show, because this is just amazing to have someone that does the work in the paranormal field, because I'm so drawn to it. It's like a pull. But thank you, Stacey, and thank you for calling.
Well, thank you. Yes, enjoy the show. You guys are doing wonderful, and I'm going to share out like always.
Thank you. Thanks
Great talking
sharing.
to you, Stacey.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you for the call. But if for anybody else, just want to say this: you can reach us at 929-436-2866 with the prompt ID 522-657-2748. Also, we're on the Facebook streaming, okay, and we're also on YouTube on the Housemarker Files. So, in case if something just happened, how Facebook has been kind of wonky. You can see us on the Housemarker Files on the Global Enlightenment Radio Network on YouTube, or you can see us on the Global Enlightenment Radio Network.com. We're also on for you, Mike. We're also being heard in the UK, so just to let you know that. So we're actually growing as we speak. I can't think of anything else to ask. You know what, Christopher? I'm going to ask you. I'm going to put you on the spot. Is there anything that you want to ask him that I can think of? Because I can't think of anything right now. I'm too excited.
Have you ever encountered inhuman entities?
So, yeah, I mean, you're inhuman. I'm guessing you're asking about demonic, or
either demonic or any other human. I believe there's multiple types.
okay, because there are interdimensional beings which aren't necessarily demonic. I think there are very few things in this world that are actually demonic. I think a lot of the a lot of the hauntings that we come across that are more nefarious in nature is just a human spirit that is angry and ticked off, and people misunderstand that as something that's actually demonic. The case I was talking about earlier in Edmond, Oklahoma, that was determined to be a demonic case, is actually the only demonic case that I've been on. Now, as far as like interdimensional beings, I believe that's what many of these shadow people are. That they are something from another dimension, another place in space and time. Some shadows are actually human spirits, and that's kind of it gets kind of tricky. That it's something that we need to try to investigate further. As paranormal investigators, just seeing a shadow in a room, you can't sit there and say automatically, "Oh, there's a shadow, so it's demonic or interdimensional or what have you." You need to research further who or what that may be. You may end up determining that that's an interdimensional being, or later determine that nope, that was a human spirit. I've seen it go both ways. So it really kind of depends on the situation. But the one that really kind of sealed the deal for me, as far as like shadows being interdimensional beings, was an investigation that I was doing at a restaurant called Johnny V's in Muskogee, Oklahoma. And this was really interesting. We were finishing up the investigation. I decided I was going to do a last photo sweep of the restaurant. A couple guys were upstairs in the bar area. A couple of the other investigators were out in the front restaurant area. And I was going through the main doors of the kitchen. Now, there's two sets of doors. There's the main doors, and there's a little side door that it's just a real flimsy, swinging metal door that waiters and waitresses would use to carry trays of food through. So you just kind of like tap it and it opens. But I was going through the main doors, and when I did, I saw this shadow just dart across the kitchen, and you heard the bam, the slam of that metal door. But the metal door didn't actually move, which was really, really interesting. So I called out to the others, "Hey, did you guys hear that?" They're like, yeah, we heard that. I was like, yeah, that was in here. And I kind of described what happened. And so they all heard it. And for a moment, I thought maybe they were messing with me. I was like, okay, did they throw something at the door? As I ended up walking through that swinging metal door and looking down, well, there's nothing on the ground here. And they were way off in the front of the restaurant anyway. And the guys upstairs, there's no way they could have thrown something down and hit that door. So I was like, okay, so not messing with me. And even if they had thrown something at the door, it's like the door would have moved, but it didn't. So it got me thinking as to, okay, what really happened here? And I believe what happened is when I walked through those main doors into the kitchen and I saw that shadow, I believe it saw me. Possibly, it may have seen me as a shadow. It may have seen me as a ghost. I don't know. It saw me as something, but basically I scared it. And
wow.
when it took off, that on its plane of existence, perhaps it blew right through that door into the restaurant area, and that door was wide open. But on my plane of existence, it didn't have the physicality to be able to do that, so it stayed closed on my plane of existence. And this is basically my dimension and its dimension just kind of crossing each other. But I was able to hear it because sound works on a different wavelength, and so that sound was able to cross over from one dimension to another. So that's been my theory ever since.
Oh, that's cool. Now I got a question. Now I'm thinking,
sure.
What is your tools that you like to use when you go on investigation? What is your favorite thing that you like? Is it spirit box, dowsing rods, EVPs? What is it that you like?
Most important tool that you have is yourself, your own body.
Of course.
Of course. So that's my favorite tool. But I mean, really, if you want to talk about technology, no, I don't ever use a spirit box. I don't believe spirits can talk in radio, because people don't really understand how the spirit box works. Basically, it's picking up the radio signals and generating, like, every 13 seconds it hits another station, and for a spirit's voice to be able to come through that, other than the white noise, which I do believe it could come through the white noise because that's just an electric signal, it's an electric impulse. But to come across the radio, one of two things would have to happen. One, they would actually have to be speaking as a radio signal so that the transceiver inside the radio could pick it up and spit out the sound, or they would have to be working outside of the realm of time and know what was coming up next to be able to pick out the right pieces to put them together to words. So I don't believe in the spirit boxes. Really, I like the audio recorders. So you can pick up the EVPs and do the EVP work, and my camera, flashlight for safety, and a notebook.
Wow.
I have a lot of the other devices, like I have an SLS camera, and I have a laser grid and all these other things, but I always go to the old standbys, just audio recorder, camera, notepad. Yeah.
Okay, what about the K2 meter?
I do have a K2 meter, which I actually usually do bring the K2 meter along, because you can, for one of the things you do have to do just from the outset is do an electric sweep of the location, so that you can see if there's any strong electrical fields coming from one area of the house or another. Because you could have like a room in the house where, hey, I keep seeing or having all these experiences while I'm laying in this bed, and then you discover that the wall behind the bed has a big electric conduit going through it and is generating a big field. It's like, well, of course, laying there, you're gonna you might start hallucinating. It's like the meter spiking out to red over here where you're laying. So that comes in handy for that. I have actually used it as a communication device. It's kind of rare, but it does happen on occasion. Just for an example, we were in a old World War II hangar at an old airfield, and we were actually in one of the planes that had seen action during World War II. And we're inside of it, just trying to do some EVP work, and we're getting nothing. We did have the K2 meter set up there, and really, we were kind of getting on the verge of, should we just move on somewhere else? It's like really cool being in the plane, but nothing's going on. So, and this is what I end up telling people is that you can use information as a trigger object. So I like to go into locations knowing as much as I can about it, because I use that information that I know as a trigger object. And in this case, it was, of course, knowing that this plane had seen action during World War II. I spent 6 years in the Air Force and, of course, know a little Air Force history, and knew that the Air Force came out of the old Army Air Corps. So I started talking about that history of the Air Force coming out of the old Army Air Corps. And then all of a sudden, we start getting all kinds of hits in the K2. We start getting EVPs, and we're able to start having a little bit of a conversation, and found out that we were talking to the navigator who had flown the airplane. So I do use the K2 a little bit as well. Yeah.
Interesting. That's interesting. Oh, and I was going to tell you something, right, too. We do take a break, so when we do take the music, so hopefully the headphones, we do take a break, but we usually take 2 breaks, but we're going to take the first break. I'm just giving you heads up because I don't want it to, hopefully, that loud, but I'm just going to, but in case if something happens, guys, remember, go on the Global Enlightenment Radio Network.com. We should still be hopefully streaming, cross our fingers. Okay. And we're also on YouTube, on the Hans Walker Files on Global Enlightenment Radio Network. We'll take a break. We'll be right back, guys.
Outside of this one church town, there's a gold dirt road to a whole lot of nothing. Got a deed to the land, but it ain't my ground. This is God's country. We pray for rain and thank him when it's falling, 'cause it brings a grain and a little bit of money. We put it back in the plate, I guess that's why they call it God's country. I saw the light in a sunrise, sitting back in a 40 on the muddy riverside, getting baptized in holy water and shine with the dogs running. Saved by the sound of a pin-found Dixie whistle in the wind that'll get you heaven bound. The devil went down to Georgia, but he didn't stick around. This is God's country. We turn the dirt and work until the week's done. We take a break and break bread on Sunday, then do it all again, 'cause we're proud to be from God's country. I saw the light in a sunrise, sitting back in a 40 on the muddy riverside, getting baptized in holy water and shine with the dogs running. Saved by the sound of a pin-found Dixie whistle in the wind that'll get you heaven bound. The devil went down to Georgia, but he didn't stick around. This is God's country. God's country. I don't care what my headstone reads or what kind of pine wood box I end up in. When it's my time, lay me 6 feet deep in God's country. I saw the light in a sunrise, sitting back in a 40 on the muddy riverside, getting baptized in holy water and shine with the dogs running. Saved by the sound of a pin-found Dixie whistle in the wind that'll get you heaven bound. The devil went down to Georgia, but he didn't stick around. This is God's country. Yeah, I saw the light in a sunrise, sitting back in a 40 on the muddy riverside, getting baptized in holy water and shine with the dogs running. Saved by the sound of a pin-found Dixie whistle in the wind that'll get you heaven bound. The devil went down to Georgia, but he didn't stick around. This is God's country.
Oh, we're on mute. Okay, I guess we're back on House Worker Files and the Global Enlightenment Radio Network. Oh my God, Stacy, that's my song. Okay, I'm actually saying that on the air. That is my song. I love Phil Collins. I can't help it. So you know what I was thinking, Mike? When you heard these songs, what you think about the songs? Do you jam out to those kind of music? By the way, it's just a question.
I'm more of a 80s hard rock guy, so like Motley Crue, Queensryche, stuff like that. Yeah, heck yeah, put up the horns. There you go. Yeah, I had a blast. Was it last September? We had Ricky Rocket from Poison, the drummer from Poison, on our show because he does legend tripping. So it was a real honor to have him on. And we very little. We actually talked about music, but it was mostly about a lot of the traveling and cases he's done and things like that. So it was really interesting.
That's funny too, because I know there was this one show that we did, and Katie, the producer, you saw her earlier. I was told her if I could put AC/DC, that's my kind of music too, but it can't because there's a copyright on that. Mm-hmm. And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" She goes, "Yeah." So there's some songs that you can put, but AC and DC and what was the other one? I think it was Metallica. I remember right.
Yeah, you got to be careful with any of that stuff.
Yeah, it's just because we pick songs and stuff, and sometimes it's me most of the time, but Christopher or Katie, or it just varies, or the person that's we have the guest sometimes, but lately I haven't had time to ask the guest to have what song they want, because it might not be able to, we might not be able to put it because of the copyright, and they'll actually just bump us off, and that's happened a few times. And but yeah, I guess with Phil Collins they actually let us slide with that one, so that's just crazy. But anything I was gonna say, is there any information that you can give to contact you? Because we still got a whole another hour to do, because we got till 9:55. It's 8:46 my time.
Right. Okay. If people want to find me, there's a lot of different places. Of course, MikeRicksecker.com is my website. You can find the book there, also at HauntedRoadMedia.com, and it's available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all different places online. If you go to your local bookstore, if they don't have it there, you can always have them order it, which is fine. You can also, find me at the Haunted Road Media YouTube channel. Like I said, it has almost 800 videos on there right now, and also the Edge of the Rabbit Hole YouTube channel, which has that's where we do the live stream shows at. But like on Haunted Road Media, that's where I put the paranormal investigation videos. We do Friday Night Ghost Frights. I've been doing other informational type videos. We just had one come out on time travelers on Monday, which was really interesting. I'm a big fan of the show Dark, which it's just blatantly big time travel shows. So I've been covering a lot of those type of topics lately. Next week I'll be covering paradoxes, so that'll be interesting.
Wow, that is amazing. You know what I was going to ask you, now that you're an author, is there a book that you can say that would recommend for me to read, or anybody? Do you have any favorite book that you made that stands out, or do you love all your books?
Yeah, well, I have 11 up to date. That one is the
Which
most
one
recent.
Is
that That's A Walk in the Shadows. So that's the Shadow Person book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, like I said, it not only has my shadow people experiences, it has shadow people experiences from people from all over. We get into a lot of different topics of, first off, the different types. That's like the whole first section of the book. I do get into the questions people have about sleep paralysis, and because that's a big concern. Yeah, it's a big concern with the medical community, because the medical community tries to say, well, it's just hallucinations. It's like, no, these are actual entities people are experiencing. So I answer those questions that people have about.
Interesting. You just triggered a subject for me.
Sure.
Knowing that when people have sleeping paralysis, what do you think triggers that? I mean, because I've had or people they just can't sleep, because I have bad insomnia, but lately I've been
Hmm.
falling asleep early. So what is it to you now that you mentioned that about the book, what is your research on the sleeping paralysis that you know
Yeah,
about?
I've had real sleep paralysis, so I understand what it is. I know what it feels like. Um, the couple times that I've had it, I've never seen shadow people. Sleep paralysis is a real biological phenomenon that happens. It's purely with your body. It has nothing to do with the supernatural. Shadow people are a real supernatural phenomenon. It has nothing to do with your body. They're two different things that can happen at the same time. But the problem I have with the medical community is whenever they hear a shadow person story and the person starts off, I was asleep and I woke up and I saw this shadow person, they automatically say you had sleep paralysis. And it's like, well, wait a minute here. Because not everybody, when they see this shadow person at night, has a sleep paralysis moment. Sometimes they do, but a lot of times they just don't. So sometimes they're able to move. My very first shadow person experience was one in which I woke up in the middle of the night, and there he was standing in the corner of my room. He ended up coming up to me and actually physically interacted with me. So he took me by the wrist, crossed my arms across my body, and ran
Oh,
off down the
wow.
hall. Yeah, it was really crazy, and I'm watching him go. So my body's moving. There's no paralysis. Um, I've had some people have related stories to me of there's a phenomenon called old hag syndrome, where people wake up and they see this visage of an old woman on their chest, or it might be like a ghoul or something like that that's sitting on their chest. There's one woman who shared a story with me of waking up and there was a dire wolf sitting on her chest. A lot of interesting type of phenomenon. But some people have reported still being able to physically interact with these beings. One individual shared a story in that book. He actually physically grabbed the old hag and threw her off of him and off the bed. So he obviously wasn't paralyzed. But the medical community likes to say that, well, no, it's, your mind is still in a hallucinatory state from dreaming. And so what they'll say is, your body is still in a state of sleep paralysis, which is natural. When your body goes to sleep, it will actually paralyze itself, so you don't act out your dreams at night. And what happens is, as you're waking up, sometimes you're still caught in that state of paralysis. When I've had the sleep paralysis, I was actually falling asleep at the time. Didn't want to be sleeping, and I woke my brain back up, but my body was still in a state of sleep paralysis. So it's like, wait a minute, I can't move, I can't see. It was crazy, but it's happened a couple of times. But what the medical community will say is, you're still hallucinating as you're caught in this state of paralysis. So you see these people in your room, and it's like, what? I dream about a lot of different things other than just people. There might be cars or airplanes in my dream. There might be trees or motorcycles or dogs or cats or whatever, in the dream. But what we end up seeing are these people. So, I've had dreams of, being on stage with Motley Crue, mentioned them earlier, but, I never wake up to them, there being 10,000 people in the room and the drum kit and the pyrotechnics and all that. I mean, it would be really cool. But that never happens when you wake up. So there are two different phenomena that happen at the same time. And I think what happens, and people who have had children can relate to this, is when somebody comes up to your bed in the middle of the night while you're sleeping, and they might just be standing there staring at you, you can feel that presence. You can feel their energy next to that bed. And like, as a parent, when the child comes up to your bed in the middle of the night, you end up waking up. I mean, it might be a minute or two, and then you wake up and the kid is standing right there. And my kids used to do that all the time. They wouldn't always just come up and tap me, hey, Dad. Sometimes they just stand there, and you end up waking up because you feel that presence near you. So I think what's happening is, with these shadow people in these moments, because again, there are real sleep paralysis moments that are legit. But I think what happens in a lot of these cases with the shadow people is, because we hear reports all the time of, I woke up and there's a shadow person standing, at the edge of my bed. Well, I think as humans, we feel that energy, we feel that presence, and something in our body, of course, wakes us up because we're feeling that presence, and we're still caught in that sleep paralysis state, but yet we see the shadow person, and they caused us to wake up just because of their presence in the room. And so I think the medical community, of course, they don't believe in the supernatural, so they just try to attribute it to this, but it's too all-inclusive with their theory on that. It's like, no, I mean, most of the shadow people I see, I have one shadow person story of waking up in the middle of the night and seeing it there. All my other shadow person experiences, and there have been several, have been while I'm wide awake. The second time I ever had an experience, I was actually, I was in my bedroom, but we were in the middle of a move, and I'm unpacking boxes and putting things away, and I was seeing a shadow in my doorway, and I turned and looked, and it would take off. And my mother had seen it as well. She confirmed that she was also seeing the same thing in the house. Or I've been on a paranormal investigation, and there goes a shadow across the room, or a giant mist. There was the one night where we saw the crawler in the basement of the old church. So, I'm awake for all those moments. I'm not asleep, no sleep paralysis, but there's the shadow person. So
so it doesn't really have to be when you're asleep. And even with being gifted, I think for me, I just tap into them. I see them even during the day. I've seen I'll look and I'm doing something, and then I'll turn back and they're gone, and I'm like, I know I just saw somebody standing there. So that does make a lot of sense. And, and this is something that I wanted to bring up because I know that you're into the paranormal and you do you do any research on aliens, if I might ask?
A little bit. I don't make that a main focus of what I do, but I do believe in extraterrestrials, and we've done several shows on whether or not there's extraterrestrial life on some of the old projects like Project Blue Book. What else have we done? I mean, I've done a lot of like time travel type stuff as well. There is an idea that some of these shadow people that we see could possibly be extraterrestrials. And there's a couple ways this could be happening. For one, if they're traveling interdimensionally, this could be the way that we see them as they're appearing in in our rooms, or in the location, or what have you. There's also an idea that if they are coming down from a spaceship here, whether they're teleporting down or however they're doing it, but they're here, that they could be using some sort of cloaking device to try to mask themselves, and perhaps they don't quite understand the physiology of us as humans, our eyes, and how all that works with us. And their cloaking device may not fully work, and so we're seeing them still as a shadow, or some people talk of like a shimmer man or something like that. And so that's one way that some of these entities could actually be extraterrestrials. So I do touch on it a little bit, yeah.
That's kind of interesting. And what about this? And this is totally off the subject. What about Bigfoot, Subsquatch?
I mean, I've had people on our show before that have come on and talked about Bigfoot and Sasquatch. It's not a big area of research that I do. Kind of the more, I guess, cryptids, for lack of a better term, that I'll research have more to do with the supernatural interdimensional spectrum, like skinwalkers or Wendigo or something like that, as opposed to just straight up Sasquatch. I mean, I do believe that there are creatures out there that it could be a Sasquatch that are in small numbers that still remain, that every once in a while we have some sort of interaction that's not explainable. But I don't go out there actively looking for Bigfoot.
Yeah, neither do I. It's just a question because I was just getting all this brainstorming and asking, because knowing that you're an investigator, when you're an investigator, to me, I feel like you investigate other things. You just, even though it's not something you like, but there's some things that you just want to just try to just figure out that, because I do feel that we're not alone. I already know we're not alone.
I keep it open. Yeah.
You keep an open mind. And there's just so many things that you know. And now that I think about it, I got some other questions. One of them is, what is one location that you haven't been to that you want to go to?
Oh, there's a lot. I haven't done a whole lot overseas yet, so I do want to hit like the Paris catacombs, or go to places like Ireland and Scotland and visit some of the castles. There is something going on. Hopefully, it will still happen next year with Ireland. I can't give out any information about it yet, but it should be coming soon. So some of the more ancient historic places like Rome, Egypt, places like that. So hopefully those things will be coming up here pretty soon.
Wow, that is kind of interesting. Rome and England and Egypt. I think I would, yeah. You know what? I was thinking of that movie. I forgot what it was. The Karate Kid with Jackie Chan. Can't think of where that. I think it was in China, if I remember right.
I'm sorry, which place?
The karate movie, Jackie Chan. Will Smith. Yeah, I want to say it's China. There's this one I can't think. I'm saying it in my mind. It's like one that's got it's a long bridge. It's a long walkway, and you just go and it goes up the steps. I can't describe what it is. I want to say it's China, but I might be.
I mean, it sounds like you're kind of describing something from Tibet.
You know what I'm talking about, right? That I can't think of that area. I can't think. My mind is, it's all
right.
I know is.
But there's a lot of great places out there. I mean, there's a lot of places in South America that I want to hit as well. Some of the ancient Mayan and Incan structures, and there's any of that ancient history. I really want to dive more into, because it plays into everything that we're doing now. You look into some of the ancient texts, and they do reference some of these different entities. I do have a small section in the book, the Shadow Person book, on ancient history and shadow people that are referred to within ancient, like the ancient Mesopotamians mentioned shadow people, the Egyptians. They talk about 7 parts to the soul, and the shadow is one of them. So this does play into ancient history and the peoples that lived thousands and thousands of years ago. This has been around for all time.
Mm-hmm. There's the one that I was describing. My friend Tessa said the Great Wall of China is the one I was talking about.
Oh, okay. Great Wall of China. Okay.
Yeah, that's the one. I mean, I've never, but of course I wouldn't want to go there now. But yeah, there's certain areas that I've always wanted to go. I mean, of course I've been in the United States, but I've never been to California. I've never been to New Orleans, which I do have a past life there. I've never been to Salem. I'm gonna go check that out. I mean, there are so many places that I haven't wanted to go, but I think outside of the United States, maybe the UK.
Yeah, Stonehenge there is one I would love to go to.
England, London. I can't think of anything. Maybe even Canada. I can't think of other areas that I would want to go to, but there's just so many. I can't even think of the top of my head because the world is so huge and there's just so many places to go. And then we have to need the passport and all that other crap, and that's another thing. Hi, Aaron. But yeah, that's just something that I wanted to share. I'm trying to think of other questions to ask you, because I'm thinking, because I asked you about Bigfoot, I asked you about Sasquatch, I asked you about aliens. Let me think. Christopher, you have anything?
So far, so good. I'm enjoying this.
I know, right? Because we're learning a lot, and you know what, that book, for some reason, even though you showed the cover of it, it's like I got that pull too for some reason. I don't know what it is, but that's about that newest book.
We'll show it again. There you go.
Yeah, I just got that pull. It's just like it has an energy to it, you know. It's just that I'm pretty sure you have other books that. Okay, that's the newest. What is the very first book you made? Very first one, and do you remember the name of it?
Oh yeah, I have that one right here. That's Deadly Airs. It was a mystery novel, actually. So when I first started writing, I was a kid. I was in second grade. I was only 7 years old. And back then I was trying to imitate the Encyclopedia Brown books. I don't know if you remember those, but they're little short mysteries, and they're basically like they're like a little brain teaser. But it's a kid that's a little detective, and so I was trying to mimic those back then. And I also wrote like a little historic fiction, if you can imagine that, as a 7-year-old. And then I did write some little, ghostly tales. But as I grew older, and I of course did do some more with the paranormal, obviously, but I had developed a private investigator character in high school that I was trying to expand into a computer game, which that project ended up falling through. But I took the storyline that I developed for that computer game and ended up writing Deadly Airs. So there's 2 to the series. There's Deadly Airs and System of the Dead. I started writing a 3rd some years ago, but still have not finished that because I've been writing all the other paranormal books since then.
Wow, that's amazing. You know what I was going to ask you? Because everybody tells me I need to get a book and write a book about my life. But I'm like, what is it that you can tell me that how to start off the book? Because I wouldn't know how to. I'm not good at writing. I'm good at reading. But
I mean, for an aspiring writer, to me, I always say read, write. And I know it sounds simplistic, but to hone your craft, you just really have to do it. And a lot of times people, I mean, they want to share, what's on their mind. They want to share what's from their heart. And so, you just keep writing. And somewhere you might end up with 5,000 pages. And somewhere within that stack is going to be your book.
Interesting. Maybe I should try to write a book. I wouldn't even know where to begin. You know what? The reason why I say that is because with this technology, you can hire somebody and just record you, and then they put that into a disc, and then everything is like, there's a way you can order the books, but it's not like that. There's apps. I forget what you call them. They're like auto books where you can still read them, but it's not where you have the book physical. You just take it like that.
There's audiobooks. This is supposed to be coming out on audiobook. It was supposed to already be out, so it's still in the review process, and hopefully one of these days it'll be out. So,
yeah,
it's an interesting process for sure.
Okay, and then we have a question that says, what would you say caused you to pursue the paranormal investigating? What started that?
Yeah, well, certainly that first experience that I talked about with the shadow person, coming up to me, crossing my arms, running off down the hall. And then the other experience I was talking about when I moved into that house. And I had a couple other little things along the way that may or may not have been paranormal. I've always believed in it. My first paranormal investigation, which I had no idea that's what I was doing at the time, because we didn't have like television shows on the time that said that these are paranormal investigators. We just didn't have that. This is like 1990, and I was at a friend's house. I was in high school, like a sophomore or something, and my friend and I were at another friend's house, and we're just in the living room, kind of shooting the breeze, talking about teenage drama, all that stuff. And all of a sudden, our friend Lori says, "Well, I think my house is haunted." Well, immediately piques my interest. Like, oh, okay, why is that? And so she gets a little bit into the history of the house. It's an old historic house downtown. There's a family cemetery out in the backyard, this type of stuff. And she tells us about in her bedroom that every time she would tack something up on the one wall, the things would always fall down from it. Whether it was a day, a week, whatever, it would always fall down. So, okay, we're going to go investigate. We're going to check it out. So we go upstairs, we're kids, we don't know what we're doing. We're going to go check it out. So we're taking a look at the wall, putting stuff up, all this sort of thing. She's telling us a little bit more about what goes on. And my friend David, who was with me, I didn't realize this about him at the time, but he was extremely sensitive. And so he ended up putting his hand flat to the wall, and his face suddenly grew very, very red. He started sweating profusely. And I'm looking at David like, oh my God, what the heck is going on with my friend? And so he started going from wall to wall in the house, just touching them like that, seeing if there were any other hot spots like that. And that was the moment that I knew that I was going to be doing this for the rest of my life. I had no idea that it was called, paranormal investigation or anything like that, but I was just so completely intrigued by what was going on. I was just, fascinated. Like, I'm going to be doing this stuff. I'm going to be trying to find out why this happens and what this is all about.
Yeah, that's just crazy, and that's why when I asked you about the book, I was like, it's just weird. Okay, the other one, we have another question. What have you found out about skinwalkers through your investigations? That's from my friend Tessa.
Skinwalkers, I'll get asked, are skinwalkers shadow people? And no, they're not. Really what skinwalkers are basically a Navajo shamanic cult. So the way to become a skinwalker is you have to be invited to be one by other skinwalkers. These are Native American Navajo shamans that have they've basically decided to take an evil path. So you have to be invited to be one. You have to kill a close loved one to get into this cult, and basically you become a shapeshifter. So you will shapeshift into another animal or become a anthropomorphic type of creature. So you would be like half human, half animal, that sort of thing. So it seems like the reports, some of them they go full animal, others are like half and half. It kind of varies across the board. So they have a lot of different traits, or at least they claim to have a lot of different traits as far as being able to outrun cars, or they might be able to read minds. It kind of depends on the story that you listen to that's associated with these. Of course, there's Skinwalker Ranch that a number of these entities are supposed to be seen at, and they have a show out now for that. So there's an interesting backstory to these creatures. If they do exist, definitely, something supernatural, otherworldly, because these aren't normal things that humans are able to do. But not nice guys.
Yeah, and that is the thing that is just crazy, because there was another question. I didn't see it. Hold on. I'm trying to see it on my. There was a question. Hold on. Where is it? Okay, the other one was from Tater. It says, "And you are paranormal investigations. Have you ever viewed the entity with your naked eye?"
Yeah. So certainly, I've like I said, I've seen a lot of shadow entities. That I actually see more shadows than I see apparitions. Sometimes you might see like a little arm or maybe a mist or something like that. The last significant entity that I did see with my own eyes was a year ago now, a little bit more than a year. It was at our last 100 Media Paracon that we were able to hold. Like I said earlier, it got canceled this year. But we host a paranormal investigation after the conference. And this was really at the end of last year's. And it was just kind of winding down. There's a handful of us in our little group. We were at the Mineral Springs Hotel in Alton, Illinois. And we were upstairs in the old abandoned hotel area. Right now, it's used as like a little mini mall. There's like a metaphysical shop in there and all these other little stores. And there's also, of course, the ballroom that we use for the conferences. But the upstairs is still abandoned, where they had a lot of the hotel rooms. And there's a specific room on the corner that's called Pearl's room. It's a confirmed suicide. She did kill herself in that room in the 1960s. A lot of people see and hear her up there. So we're investigating in that room. When we're doing the Paracon, I don't keep a lot of equipment on me because I'm hosting the investigation. It's their investigation. I'm there for like information, kind of guide stuff around. So, we're sitting around doing a little EVP session.
Yeah.
And we start to hear we start to hear some noise from down the hall. It's like, okay, what's going on down there? So go out into the hallway, looking down, and start seeing this black smoke at the end of the hall. It's kind of billowing up, is coming closer and closer. It's like, okay, this is interesting. It starts doing something really wild. It actually starts creeping up the one side of the hall and coming back down and coming closer and creeps back up the right-hand side of the wall, comes back down. Finally, as it's coming closer, it kind of sticks to that right-hand side of the wall and morphs into the apparition of a little girl. There were 5 of us there that saw this little girl, and we were trying to, come on, you can keep coming, and trying to get her closer and closer. There is a story of a little girl being up there in the one room in that particular hallway, which we'd gone into that room before, tried to do a little work to see if we could interact with her, and we never really got much in that room at all. Other investigative teams had claimed that they had interacted with her, but we never really had. But here we actually saw her, and when she stopped coming closer to us, she basically stopped at that doorway where she's reported to usually be seen. So we believe this was the little girl that's usually seen in that room. And it was real. Well, also helped me in my research, because I was still writing the Shadow Person book at the time, was it really confirmed that yes, some of these shadow entities that we see are actually human spirits. I mean, that was black mist that formed into a little girl. So that that one was definitely a human spirit.
Wow. We actually got 3 more questions. The first one with Amanda says, has there ever been any time that you felt uncomfortable while investigating? Did you ever experience like scratches, tugged, or anything to that nature? And were you able to continue, or did you stop the investigation?
It's a good question. I get asked that one, quite a bit, and it's hard to give a good answer to it, because I'm really a curious person. I've seen a lot throughout my life that, if it starts getting a little intense on the investigation, it's like I'm one that, okay, something just happened, I'm going toward it. So when that has happened to me, it's happened when I wasn't there for an investigation. And I'll give an example. It's in this book too, because it does involve shadow. It does involve shadow entities. But I was. It's going to sound a little weird, but I was in the backyard of somebody's abandoned house. It was for a personal matter. I was basically trying to talk this person off a ledge, and I had driven down there. She was parked behind the house. It was a house that she had grown up at. So I parked my car in the driveway, walked into the backyard, into her SUV, and we're just talking. And as we're talking, I started noticing in the side mirror that there's these shadows in the woods. There's woods behind the house. And they're kind of just approaching the trees back there. And it's like, okay, this is interesting. And as we continue to talk, more and more start to come up to the trees. And again, it's like, okay, this is interesting. Nothing's really happening. But finally, one of them actually approaches the car. I wasn't there for a paranormal investigation. It wasn't something I was prepared for. The feel of that moment felt very intense. It felt negative. Didn't like it. So I said, maybe we should take the conversation elsewhere. So she started asking me, okay, so what are you seeing? She starts looking out the mirrors and windows too. And I told her about the one that had approached the car. So it's like, let's go ahead and go. She agreed. So I got out of her SUV and I'm taking a look around. And it's like, okay, where is the thing? I didn't see the shadow near the car, but I'm seeing them still in the tree line. I start heading back to my car and, kind of keeping an eye on the trees. I'm not turning my back to it at all as I head to my car. And what was really interesting is as all these shadow entities are, they're gathering by the trees, there was something white and wispy and kind of almost like a cobweb that was slinking its way through the treetops. It was really bizarre. Finally got in my car and we, headed elsewhere. So that was a moment where, again, just not prepared for the situation, was in a totally different frame of mind. And once that energy started kind of ramping up a little bit, it's like, yeah, we should go.
Wow. That's amazing. I like that question. They're coming out with some good questions tonight. See, they're actually helping me.
That's good. That's good.
I know. The next question we have is from Tater says, how do you make sure the entity does not follow you home after you encountered them?
Great question. I tell it not to follow me home. I'm serious. To me, it's as simple as that. I mean, you put that energy forth, and I have felt things as I'm exiting a location, trying to tag along, and I will turn around and say, "No, you are staying here. You do not follow me home." And I think it's just a matter of putting that energy forth that you're serious about this. I've had it before where they're just driving down the highway, picked up something at a rest stop, and it's like, okay, we have a hitchhiker is what we called it. And it's like, nope, you need to get out of here. And I think it's just a matter of having that conviction. Like I was saying earlier about, with the question of what do you do to protect yourself? Well, I believe if whatever it is that you do to protect yourself, if you have that belief that this is going to protect you, then it will. Same thing with something trying to follow you home. You have that conviction that you're not following me home. It's not going to follow you home.
Wow. So it is the state of mind, basically, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
And the other question is, are skinwalkers and Wendigo similar or completely different entities?
Yeah, they're different. People get them confused because they're both Native American, supernatural, all that. So a lot of people get them confused. So a Wendigo is actually closer to a zombie, really, because these are entities that are cannibalistic. They were human. There are some legends that say they're actually possessed by a spirit, and there's others that say that they were bitten by another Wendigo, so then they became a Wendigo themselves, which is very, very much like a zombie. So a lot of these legends came from parts of Canada and the kind of northern Midwest section of the country, so like Minnesota area and I guess parts of Wisconsin, that they went through an epidemic in the later 1800s where these Native American tribes were having people that were eating their families, which was very, very sad. So that's kind of where these legends came from. I mean, I should say the legends came from earlier, and they ended up applying them to these people that were, cannibalizing their families, during the harsh winters. So that's where those stories came from. It's really more of a zombie story, where with the skinwalkers, that's shapeshifters.
Interesting. And to see Tater, I can't believe she's asking this question. She says, during your investigations, have you actually ever met the devil, or not talking about just the entity, talking about the actual devil? Will you know when he was present? No doubt about it. I'm telling you,
I've never met the devil or Satan during an investigation. I had the one investigation that was demonic. Again, it wasn't the devil, but it was something evil and nefarious that we expelled from that house, and that was the one that was on Animal Planet, the Haunted. I will say, I do have a lot of interesting dreams. It's kind of one of my I call it like a quote unquote superpower, because I have a lot of premonitions with my dreams, and it's hard to. It's really hard to gauge anything with those, because I could have a dream and it doesn't happen for maybe a month, or it doesn't happen for a year, whatever. I have a lot of things that happen in dreams that end up coming to fruition. I also have had visitations in dreams from my grandparents who passed away. I'm going to do something here on that soon on the Haunted Road Media channel. There is this one that I had several years ago that actually I had a couple of dreams close together that were very, very much like end of days. And this one in particular was, I won't get into the whole beginning of the dream because there's a lot of kind of a longer preamble to it. But where I got to the point in this dream, it was basically like the final battle. And, we were actually all up in the air and really just duking it out. And this one entity came in front of me, and he just, he had the red face and he had the horns, and it was like I knew that this was, if it wasn't Satan himself, it was somebody very close to it, high up the food chain. And I just said that something to the effect of, you're just, for lack of better words, I don't know if we're allowed to curse on this show.
Yes,
or not.
yes, you are.
All right.
Yes.
You're just pissed off because after this you're not going to exist anymore, and then we just duked it out. So and then kind of the skies cleared and everything was happy and everything after that. But I make of that what you will. So
That is interesting. I mean, that's, and it's funny you said premonitions, because I've had premonitions, and some of them have came true, not just for me, for others. So it's kind of like I like see things, foretell things, and I'm just like, oh my god. And it's usually when I'm having premonitions, it's usually maybe 2 or 3 days later till I find something out that it's someone that I'm gonna help. So yeah, so that is kind of interesting. We have another question from Taylor. It says, in your paranormal investigations, have you ever witnessed an exorcism?
no, I haven't been a part of an exorcism. Haven't done that.
Okay. The other Stacy says, do you know anything about Tom knockers, or have you ever been on an investigation requiring them?
Yeah, well, Tommy knockers, they're entities that are like in the cave systems. They're really more out west. There are caves, of course, out east, but I haven't done a lot of the investigations in caves. I toured some, like the regular commercial tours as kids. When I was a kid, my parents would take me to different things like that. But that was something I was hoping to do when I did my trip out west here this past fall. When I went to Shockfest Film Festival, there was a possibility of a investigation at a cave one of the nights, but that fell through. The guy that was going to take us there ended up not being able to come. So, and that was a cave in which there were supposed to be Tommy knockers. It didn't happen.
Wow.
So no, I haven't done any Tommy knocker investigations.
Then we got one from Victoria. Says, have you ever feel that you've had a shadow person who was protective of you?
It's a good question. So, yeah, not all shadow people. It's kind of a misnomer. A lot of people think that all shadow people are evil and nefarious, and not all shadow people are. Talked about the little girl. Obviously, she's not evil. She's a little girl. Some of them that they're just darting across the room, or the one peeking in my bedroom. He was always taking off, so he was like scared of me or something. I don't know. I mean, it's a little creepy, disconcerting, but they're not necessarily, bad or anything like that. They're more just observant. But, and that could be what some of these are, is, maybe they are being protective. Maybe that's one of the reasons why they're observing, is they're protecting a particular person. I've had people speculate that the one that crossed my arms across my body and ran off down the hall, that, perhaps when it saw me for whatever reason, it thought I was dead and was putting me into a burial pose. So if it was doing that, it would be doing more, something more along the lines of honoring me, than to actually be, trying to hurt me. So it just kind of depends on your perspective, of the situation. That, yeah, sure, maybe they're being protective or trying to honor somebody, or, I think a lot of the ones that stand there and watch us are just trying to learn about human behavior. So. Good question.
I know that is a good question. We're coming up with a lot of good questions. I know we got to take a break, but I got one
I'm
I got
just
one
listening.
question.
This is
I know,
awesome.
I know, it's crazy. I got a question that no one has ever asked. Has this ever happened to you, Mike, where you're walking, and I've done this before, even in the front yard of my house or even in the back. I'm walking outside, and I'm walking, and then you get this distinctive feeling, like, because you know how the spider webs have, they can make webs all night long. You should see, we've seen
Spider
webs that
webby
were
feel.
huge. I mean, huge.
Mhm.
Have you ever came across where you walking in your yard or just in the front, and you get this spider web feeling, you get a flashlight and you look and there's nothing there, but you get this cobwebby feeling. Has that ever happened to you before?
Well, I mean, I won't say like in my front yard or backyard or anything, but on paranormal investigations, yeah, there's a lot of these places that we go to that, yeah, you're walking down the hall or you walk into a room or what have you, and all of a sudden, yeah, it feels like you just walked into a cobweb and there's nothing there. And that's, basically you have felt, some sort of supernatural entity or energy when that happens. So a lot of times I'll get like the tingling on my arms is what I'll end up getting when I walk into a room. It's like, oh, there's something going on here. But there are times where it's like the cobweb right in the face. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay.
I was gonna ask you, when you had that, has that ever happened to you where you've had that cobweb feeling? What was the first thing that you got? What was your, how can I put it? How can I put the words?
When the first
What
time
was
that
it?
happened,
No, no. How am I gonna ask? When you had this cobweb feeling, what was the first, um, what was the word I'm seeing? I'm like, something's messing with me. Like, have you ever, what was your first impression when you got that cobweb? Did you feel it was spirit, or did you actually think there was a spider web?
well, I mean, when it first happens, you're always kind of looking around for a spider web because a lot of these
Yeah,
places that you go to are, I mean, they're older places, or you might be in a basement somewhere, or like sometimes I'll get that abandoned section of Mineral Springs. They do get cobwebs up there. So yeah, it's kind of like one of the first things you look for is I just walk into a cobweb. And of course, without anything there, it's like, okay, that was something else. Or sometimes, you may have already been walking around this room for a while, and all of a sudden that happens. Then you kind of know, okay, this certainly wasn't a cobweb. That was spirit energy.
Okay. And there's like so many questions. One, I think we already answered, Taylor, but I'm going to go ahead and ask. In your paranormal investigation, have you ever been attacked physically by one, and how serious was it?
Yeah, I've never been outright attacked during a paranormal investigation. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess I've been kind of poked, prodded. Haven't really been scratched. Maybe like pushed a little bit, but it's a lot of people like to say, when that happens, you're being attacked, and it's like, well, maybe not necessarily. They might just be trying to get your attention and don't realize, how much force that they're actually trying to use. And a great example of that is like the movie Ghost. And I hate using movies as an example, but I think they're kind of onto something where he's trying to learn how to push, the penny. And for a while, he doesn't know how forceful he is when trying to concentrate and use his energy. So I think that happens, with some of these spirits, is like they might just be trying to tap you on the shoulder, hey, hello, and are actually accidentally shove you, so
That's amazing. And then we had one, I don't know if we already answered that one, but I'll read it anyway. Have you ever had a spirit or entity show up at least more than once in investigation? Like it showed up at investigation A and then later showed up at investigation B?
Yeah, we've had that before. I mean, a number of different locations. I guess another good one is, again, at Mineral Springs, there's a entity there called Helga that we've come across, got a great EVP with her name on it down around the pool area. And then was several months later, we ended up interacting with her off the grand ballroom down the hallway. There's an old fountain. So around there, we encountered her again. So, and that's something that, I really enjoyed doing in paranormal investigations, is interacting with the same entities multiple times, because then you start to really build a rapport. with these people, and that's what they are. They're people. You start to build a rapport with them. You get them to open up, and you get to learn, more and more information about them, where they're from, the location, and all of that. Yeah.
Wow. Let me hear one from Stacy. Out of all the places you've been investigated, which one is your favorite place?
So my favorite, I have several favorite places. My favorite haunted house would be the Stone Lion Inn in Guthrie, Oklahoma. To me, it's just the epitome of a haunted house. It just has a very creepy, cool ambience. There's always something going on in there. You're always hearing the footsteps, and you're like voices upon the air. I've had a lot of great experiences there. Really enjoy the Mineral Springs Hotel. I've mentioned that several times here, so it's probably my favorure commercial.
What is your most favorite one?
Commercial place. Yeah, as far as like a commercial haunt, because that's old hotel. That's probably my favorite when it comes to that. But haunted house would be Stone Lion Inn in Guthrie, Oklahoma. Yeah.
Wow, that's good. I guess we'll take this last break. We'll be right back in the Housework called the Global Enlightenment Radio Network. We'll be right back. Yeah, we're back on House Worker Files on the Global Enlightenment Radio Network. We're back. Our special guest, Mike. And I will just make an announcement. I know that we were supposed to have a guest on the 29th. You're going to love this because every time Daryl and Katie tell me this, well, I'm actually going to do it. Again, y'all can pick my brain on the 29th because I will be doing readings. Okay, so I'm just going to let you know that on Monday it's going to be my night. So if you want to work my brain, go ahead, use my brain, call when you can actually write it on your calendar and say, okay, we're going to pick on Chris's brain. So if you want to call in on Monday, I'm going to let you know. So yeah, because we did have a guest, but something came up. So I guess, you know what? I'm just going to just do Monday for me. So might as well. So I'm just going to let you know you can pick my brain. And for Mike, if you want to call in and pick my brain, you can do that too if you want.
All right.
But anyway, so what I was gonna say, we still got a few more minutes. But what last time? How can they contact you?
Yeah, they can contact me, of course. Well, right here on Facebook. MikeRicksecker.com. They can also find me at HauntedRoadMedia.com. The YouTube channel, which is Haunted Road Media, or the other one, which is Edge of the Rabbit Hole. And then, yeah, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, any of those platforms.
Oh, and I was going to ask you, I mean, I know that's with the TikTok, how does that work within the media? How does that work?
Well, basically what I do is because you can only do like a minute long on the clips. So I take the ghost story videos that I do and do them in little 1 minute segments and toss them up there on TikTok. So I use TikTok a little bit different than other people do, but I have a lot of followers out there, so it's working.
That's good. We actually got a few more minutes. I can't think of any questions. Oh, you know what I was going to say? Thank you, Mike, for coming on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
I know it was amazing. Now, for anything, Christopher, you want to say anything to him? I know that you enjoyed the show, but do you have any questions for him before we go?
No, but I really enjoyed the program. I hope we get to have you again.
I know we're going to have you again.
And you're fun to chat with, too.
I know, because I was picking his brain, too. He was picking my brain. And it was the last question I asked you about was the cobwebs, because it kind of, when I feel that, I feel like spirit. That's when I got that weird sensation.
Yeah.
I've never felt that. And it's the most creepiest feeling ever. It seems like there's a spider web on you, but it's not. It's just weird. I can't describe it. It's just
I totally
weird.
Get it. Yeah, I've had that happen a number of times.
And I haven't had that happen, but I don't know when it happens. I guess is when the spirit is trying to communicate, because you would think it would happen a lot, but it doesn't. It don't happen maybe like 3 times to me, but since then it's like I haven't been touched like that. So, and it's weird. And then sometimes I've even gotten where I went into a location and I got like sick to my stomach, and I was like, why am I getting sick? And I was like, I must be picking up of an area where I was going to. So that's happened a few times. Has it ever happened to you? Now that I mentioned that, has it ever made you sick going into a location or before going to a location?
Not before going to a location, but yeah, there have been times on investigations where you get into an area and maybe it's a little bit too much energy or something like that's going on, and you might start feeling a little queasy in your stomach. Yeah, stuff like that will happen.
Okay. Well, I guess because I know Katie's got another show to do.
Yeah.
But we can
or
the
head spinning. You might get a little lightheaded. Yeah.
Oh yes, I know that. Oh yes, I know that feeling too. But I was gonna say one more last time. How can they contact you?
Yeah, MikeRicksecker.com or HauntedRoadMedia.com. Those are the two. And by all means, check out the Haunted Road Media YouTube channel. So,
and we will have you again, Mike. I'll just let you know ahead of time. And for Tater, I see that comment. You're going to pick my brain on Monday. Well, I'm ready for you, okay? I'm going to let you know that. I'm ready for everybody. So if you want to pick my brain, be my guest. So see you Monday, guys, on House Worker Files and Global Enlightenment Radio Network. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Take care.
Good night. Can't hear anything. I don't know where Kenny's at.
Where's Katie?
I don't know. But we actually got a few more minutes, but I guess it's just because I know that she's going to do that other stuff. Katie, do you want to say anything? Katie, are you there? I guess she wants us to stay on the air a little bit longer, so we got time. Let's see. That was another question. I don't even know if Katie's heard me, but okay, there's one that says I can't pronounce that word, but it says smells when you're in a place that has a woman who's haunted that area, smells like a super sweet perfume smell. What is your take on the smells that you smell when you do investigation? Sorry, because I think Katie.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of an interesting thing. Sometimes we get those smells, like a type of perfume, like flowers, or you might like get a cigar or something like that. So, yeah, it's interesting. There's something about the spirits manifesting that they sometimes will actually manifest some sort of smell that's associated with them sometimes. But it's not constant either. So it's like you might interact with them 10 times and there's only one time you get that particular smell. So it's kind of an unusual experience, but it does happen from time to time.
Wow. Well, hopefully. Katie, are you there? Katie, can you message her, Christopher, on the Zoom?
Okay.
Because I know that she's got the show to do, and I don't want to miss it unless she had to go do something real quick.
Yeah, and in private.
I know, but hopefully y'all enjoyed the show, and I was gonna say thank you again, Mike, for coming on.
Yeah,
and we will
absolutely. Thanks for having me
again. And I was gonna ask you, how's your schedule for? Let's see, because I know we're in June. How would it be for August?
I'll have to take a look. I mean, off the top of my head, I don't know. I'd have to look at my calendar.
Oh, you would have to look at your calendar.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I hope you all enjoyed the show. We'll see you Monday on the Houseworker Files and the Global Enlightenment Radio Network. Good night, everyone. Good night.
Bye.